guys, it's another week, and that means it's podcast time here at Leader Club. My name is Michael.
This is Caleb.
And today we have a very special guest. Dave Ruel is with us, the author of Done by Noon, international speaker, came on to talk about productivity as a leader and how you can systemize your life and make your life most effective as a busy leader. Caleb, what did you think about this talk? I mean, for me, I kind of struggled with this for a while, and I feel like this was really essential for my life. So what did you think about it?
Oh, yeah. Love the talk. Just very powerful all the way around. Dave did a phenomenal job. Great speaker, very well known. If you haven't heard of him or his book, we'll put a link to the book in the notes here, and you can get that in the description. But definitely check it out. He's done a phenomenal job with everything he's got going on.
Yeah. Well, before we jump into today's talk, guys, just a quick reminder: if you like the content we're putting out and you like these, little podcast snippets that we are giving you guys, do us a favor: subscribe to this podcast, leave us a review, just so we know how we're doing. And this also helps us spread the word to other people as well and to other leaders, and helps get our show out there so we can affect the most leaders possible in this world. So, if you could do that, that would be a tremendous help. And guys, today's talk with Dave Ruel, it's life-changing. If you can go in there and you can stay focused while you're listening to this, maybe take some time and, bring out your notebook, get a pen, take some notes, because this is going to really allow you to live an effective life as a leader and an organized life as a leader. Because, whenever you can master yourself, right? He's going to go in and talk about some self-leadership. And whenever you can do that, that's when you're going to start seeing not only change in other people's lives, but your own life. So I'm super pumped for this one. You want to just jump right in?
It's great. Let's go.
What's up, everybody? This is Michael Tucker here for our next Leader Talk, and I have Dave Ruel with us. Dave, how's it going, brother?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And dude, first off, I just want to say thank you for being patient with me. If you're watching live right now, just know that this is the first time I've ever recorded a podcast from my truck. So I was going to go into Dunkin' Donuts here, and I was like, it'd probably be quieter in my truck. So anyways, Dave, thanks for coming on, man.
No problem. Your sound is actually surprisingly good. So you're good.
Well, yours is as well. So guys, today's going to be very, very interesting. And I've been very excited to have this conversation with Dave. I stumbled upon his work about 2 months ago, maybe a month ago. And I was like, dude, this guy has to come on. I started just diving into who he was. And he's actually the author of Done by Noon. You can see the book on the shelf behind him. Yeah.
Shameless product placement right there.
Yeah. And so you guys need to pick that up. I'm actually just getting ready to dive into it myself, but the work and his social media, this guy has really just inspired me to take my productivity as a leader to the next level. Because, as we grow in our businesses, our organizations, we're oftentimes pulled in different directions, right? And Dave really focuses on helping people create a stress-free and burnout-free life from the work I've seen from him. So I'm excited to have him come on and kind of help us in this area. So Dave, man, tell us a little bit about who you are, and we'll let you just dive right into it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So I've been an online entrepreneur for about 12 years now. So I've developed multiple 6- and 7-figure companies. Actually, before the online business was actually a thing. And I started in the fitness space. From there, I moved on to the supplement space. And in 2014, I kind of started to coach kind of on the side, by having requests from people to teach the online business, thinking that it would be more of a lifestyle thing. And when I started coaching, I realized that all entrepreneurs have the same, I would say, misconceptions about freedom and online business, but also have the same problems when it comes to leading themselves. And this is how Ethic was born. So we started all the tools that I had pretty much built for myself over the years, and built out of experience, but also out of my own need to become a better self-leader. I started passing on these tools to my students, and Ethic was born that way. And from there, wrote Done by Noon. And the Ethic, we got the Ethic Planner as well. So we give the tools to the leaders of the new generation of leaders.
I love it. And
So just so you know, a little bit about my background as well. I just jumped into the fitness industry, so I'm kind of right there with you. We just purchased a fitness center, and we're
Oh,
starting
no
to.
way. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I find it very interesting, but a lot of us, we can find ourselves in that place of burnout, and I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on that and some processes, maybe some systems you have in place for yourself to make sure we don't get burnt out because as a leader, we need to make sure that we are as equipped and as healthy as we can be for the people we are leading, right?
No, that's correct. I mean, it all starts with us, right? It all starts with self leadership, and your business is only going to be as good as you are, really. Like, I'm not, I don't want to say that you have to be everything about that your business is you. What I'm saying is that the way you lead yourself will definitely dictate how your business is going to go. Where and the problem being entrepreneurs are a weird breed, man. I mean, it's just how we are. We're just wired differently than most people. And the problem is, like, as great as it is in certain areas, it's a double-edged sword. And more than often, we're we drift from the path we were originally on.
Right.
And it's part of the process. And until we learn how to operate as an entrepreneur, this is only when we can become great entrepreneurs and great business owners and business leaders, obviously.
Right. Dude, that is so powerful and so true. If you're listening right now or watching this, maybe you're watching the replay, I would suggest you just go back and rewind that and just listen to that because everything he's saying is so true. So let's dive into it, man. Like, what made you want to write Done by Noon? And like, what's some of the content in that book, just to give people a little teaser that could help them in their journey?
Well, the book was built based on my, first of all, like my own journey into entrepreneurship, but also coaching entrepreneurs over the years and looking at all the patterns that we have as entrepreneurs. And so I come from a fitness background, right? I was a fitness athlete and competed in bodybuilding for many years. And I there's many parallels between the world of fitness. You probably see it too, Michael, is that there's things that we do in fitness that perfectly translate into the business world. And I think for me, like, that was like transforming my body, becoming an athlete was my biggest edge, as an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean that I knew exactly how to operate as an entrepreneur, because from there, you go from, the physical state to the mental state, but it's how you translate that. So really, it's showing how, that most entrepreneurs, when we start, we look for one thing, and there's one thing only that we want. And that thing is freedom. And there's three kinds of entrepreneurial freedom. So there's freedom of time. So we want to do things on our own terms, when we want. There's creative freedom. So we want to work on things that we want to do. So we want to work on what we want when we want. But there's also the financial freedom aspect. So we want to be paid to do it, and we want to do it well. So I feel like almost every single entrepreneur starts, with that desire of having, freedom from the start. But drift happens. Eventually we lose track of why we're going in business for. Business happens, life happens, and next thing you know, you get busy. Especially if your business is going well, all of a sudden you're bombarded with different things you didn't anticipate in the first place, right? But there's in the journey of the entrepreneur, there's always that moment where you have to rethink about what you're doing, right? Every single entrepreneur will go through this phase where it will go and look back and say, like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, how come I've drifted so far away from my original path? And then becomes that journey to, go back to that freedom, right? That doesn't mean that's the thing. And I think Done by Noon appeals for that because, obviously it's like the 4-hour work week, right? It appeals to that freedom. However, like, not a single entrepreneur will say, oh, I just want to work 4 hours a week and be done. It's just not true. Entrepreneurs love to work. right? We love doing our thing. It's just actually the problem is that we stop doing what we love. We think we're going in business because we're like, yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more of what I want when I want. But guess what? It doesn't happen like that. And all of a sudden, the business becomes like the dictator.
Right.
Right. So we've built a methodology, a 4-step methodology, to get entrepreneurs back on track to a track of great self-leadership. But when it comes to time management, task management, but also energy management, and based on pretty much what has been inspired by the fitness world and the performance world.
Awesome. I love it, man. Man, we often do find ourselves drifting away, but it's key to, take a step back and find out, how can we reset and where can we, step into a new place. So what are some tips and what are some systems you would recommend for people that, they're growing leaders, their organizations are growing, their businesses are growing, and, they're having a hard time, managing the task, managing everything and juggling all the things that are going on within a business. What kind of advice or tips would you give to people to help them become more efficient?
Well, first of all, is to take a good look in the mirror and looking at where is the leaks and the fires are coming from. All right, when you're on the scene of a disaster and you realize that, there's a leak somewhere, there's fires coming from somewhere, you have to look where it's coming from, right? So first of all, take a good look at how you're spending your time in your business and in your life in general, and look for patterns. Look for things that are recurring, things that keep coming back, and that you're like, okay, I keep doing this all the time, or I have too much of this and I have too much of that. So doing that clear assessment.
Can you give like an example of that?
Well, for example, what I would do, like what I advise anyone who goes through a methodology is to first look into your work, document your work week, take a full week, document, like pay attention to what you're actually spending time on. Because more than often in business, we don't even know, like, it's like, oh, geez, like time is all like, there's no more time. Yeah, but guess what? Like, if you would know a little bit of what you're spending your time on, you could actually optimize. The problem is that nowadays, I feel like there's a big problem with, first of all, the business culture that's like, okay, yeah, you need to hustle. You need to like go. You need to people confuse activity for productivity, right? Pretty much. But also there's a problem also of patching, of hacking. And I hate that. Like, it's like when you go to the gym, Mike, like, does just a basic collection of exercise make a program?
No, I mean, not necessarily.
No, because like it needs to make sense. There needs to be a sequence to the exercise. There needs to be a context. There needs to be an end goal that we're going for, right? If you're looking to build muscle, but all of a sudden you start running laps all the time, well, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to build any muscle. Well, it's the same thing. Like what you want to achieve in your business, you have to take a clear look of where am I right now? What the hell is going on? But first, like when you want to get back on track, is to understand where you're going. Like you go to the gym, if you don't have any goals, if you don't have any vision of what you're going to do, well, like you're just going to do whatever and you're going to expect great results. Well, no, it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, the guy who's in and out of the gym in 30 minutes is getting way, way better results than you do. It's the same thing, So look into your situation, but project yourself in the future. Understand where ultimately you want to go, right? If you want to go on a bodybuilding stage, hey, your program is going to need to be like, to fit that. If you want to run marathon, your training is going to be way different. All right. So understanding these things. And from there, you start optimizing, you start prioritizing, you start scheduling, you start planning, you start and protecting this environment you're creating for yourself. Right. But there's a reason for what you're doing, and everybody's different. It's not every, like I'm talking done by noon, but done by noon, really, the framework shows you how to prioritize the four types of entrepreneurial tasks that you're going to have, right? And to put them in the right order based on your own context and your own ambitions, right?
Right.
So, yeah, you know, it depends. I mean, obviously, it depends on the context. Everybody has a different context. Someone can be, I mean, some people here can be totally burnt out and not know, you know, be ready to quit. Or some people are just in the midst of like hustling and saying, hey, I just have no time. I just have no time to optimize. Guess what? You're always going to go through that. And there's going to be a time where you're going to need to reconsider. So it's never a bad time.
Right.
We just wait
I
until
love
like
how you talk
shit
about
hits the
slowing.
fan. We always hit, you know, wait until shit hits the fan in order to do something. That's what's bad about humans.
Well, I like how you talk about sitting down and just talking about, detailing what you do throughout the week, right? Really becoming self-aware of what items you're taking part in, because there's a lot of things you think are productive, like you were mentioning, right? There's a lot of things we assume, like answering emails, but can those answering emails be done, or like sending emails, can that be outsourced to somebody else, right? Or, what is important to us and what's going to get us to where we want to be in our business. And so, Dave, that's like nail on the head, man. That was like 100%. And I would suggest everybody that's watching this, maybe sit down tonight, or maybe while you're on your lunch break after you listen to this, sit down and do what Dave just recommended. List everything you're doing. I'm on every activity, right, Dave? It's not just like, oh, I did this.
Document.
Yeah, everything. You're going through and writing a book about your day, and you'll be surprised at how much time you spend on everything. So don't just list out what you did, but how long you did it for, right? So, and that's another thing, you'll start seeing gaps in your system. So, what other tips do you have, man, outside of that? Or maybe once somebody does that step, what do you think is next for them?
So we have something called the big picture exercise, and you've probably heard about the perfect day exercise. Like, it's a very like well-known exercise, and we've built our own version of that, where we ask you to project yourself really in the future, and you decide on the date. It could be 2 years from now, it can be 10 years from now, it can be 30 years from now. And we ask you to paint a very clear picture of your situation right now. And we use the example of a party, of you're at night one day and there's a party. Imagine who's there. Imagine how you spend that day. Imagine who you're with, what your day's like. Where do you live? Like, what's your financial situation? Where's your revenue coming from? Like, there's a kind of you're rewriting your whole story, if you want, or you're writing your story before it happens, but as a very clear mental picture of what it would look like in a specific time frame. So we ask you to do that, and that's a good start. That's the starting point. That becomes your Northern Star, if you want, when you get started. And from there, you can start reverse engineering. So like I said, it's like when you're very clear about the outcome, what it looks like, only then you can actually do the work. And this is when the real work starts happening, where you have to look into, what do I need to prioritize in order to make this happen, right? If you keep collecting meaningless stuff or doing meaningless stuff, like, don't expect this vision of yours to happen. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to look into your, first of all, your strengths. So what you're absolutely great at and better than other people, and how you can actually do more of that, because that's a big problem. When we start a business, we start based. So there's two ways. Like, but more than often it's because you're passionate about something, but second is because you're good at that thing, right? But business happens, and all of a sudden you stop doing that thing you were great at. All right. So it's understanding that business will happen. And there's 4 types of tasks in business. Okay. First of all, we call the rocks. Okay. The rocks are the project related tasks. So tasks that are actually bring innovation to your business, make your business move forward. Okay. The second are called routines. So routines are tasks that keep coming back, over time, that are mandatory for the well-being of your business per se. Like, there's things that you have to do in your business that are mandatory, and that, without them, your business would not function properly. So these are these tasks, but they're recurring tasks. Then there's the third type of task is so that's the reactive task. The reactive tasks are all, let's say, the byproducts of your business activity. So all the tasks that you never anticipated that keep, like piling up, in on your to-do list, right? So this is the fourth type of task, and the third and the fourth is the responsive task. So everything that has to do with communications, and we all know in this day and age, especially now with the situation that we're on right now, where everybody's working remotely, that's your emails, those are your Zoom meetings, those are your DMs. I mean, you name it, and everything that has to, where you have to respond to something. Okay. The last two, the reactive and the responsive tasks, these are what we call your drifters. So these are the types of tasks that are going to make you drift from your actual genius. And the problem is that these tasks will take most of your time. So how do you go about doing less of these tasks, but doing more of what is going to bring more results in your business, your rocks and your routines, obviously. So there's two ways to do it. So the ways to do that is to start looking at that, classifying these tasks, but building systems in order to go about these tasks. Right. Because more than often, what we call the power moves, so the rocks and the routines, we don't even have time because they're last on the list. Like how much time, like think about projects that you probably have that you want to accomplish. And you're like, oh man, I wish I would have time to do that. That would make such a difference in my business. Well, what's preventing you to do it? Well, I got just so much to do. Yeah, to do. You have so much to do. But guess what? Is that really moving your business forward? Probably not. Right? So you have to find the systems in order to make that happen. So we have a framework called the productive action process, which is inspired by, have you heard about the pickle jar theory, the big rocks, the small rocks, and the sand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think everybody has heard about that. If you don't know about it, Google it or YouTube it and you'll find it. It's just, if you place the sand first, all the small stuff first, like it's going to create a layer in your bucket, right? From there, if you put the things that are a little bit more important, meaning the small rocks, it's going to create another layer and you're not going to have enough space in order to put in the big rocks, so the important things. And that's something that has been popularized by Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In his demonstration, pretty much, he takes the big rocks, puts them first. So these are the important things. And then he puts in the small rocks and then the sand. But what happens is small rocks, fit between all the holes and crevices of the big rocks. And same thing for the sand, goes between the small rocks and the big rocks. So I remember when I first saw, a demonstration of that, of the pickle jar theory, I was like, this is exactly like a training program. This is exactly like a workout. All right. First, you establish what are you going to be working on? Okay. Is it going to be, let's say, chest? Okay, great. So first, what are you going to do? You're going to create your macro, like your big exercises, your bench press, your flies, whatever. And from there, you're going to have the number of sets that you're going to be doing, and then the number of reps within these sets, right? It was the exact same type of framework. So we use that framework in order to create a project management framework in order to come up with a project, but break it down into bite-sized actionable pieces. And from there is to take these small rocks, these actionable pieces, and constantly working on them. So every day having a time slot to work on these tasks and make it a mandatory event. Make it a non-negotiable where every day you have to work on something that moves your business forward. Because guess what? Even though you want to work more on these things, you're still going to have the 4 types of tasks to account for. You're still going to have reactive tasks. You're still going to have messages to reply. And same thing with the things that keep coming back. And same thing. So the routines, that's the same for the routines. Sorry. The problem with the routines is that more than often, because business gets busy and we have to perform these tasks over and over again, we just end up like these become our main important thing to do because our business needs that in order to run. So what you need to do is to look into, again, your strengths and creating systems in order for this to happen. right? So you need to look into outsourcing, you need to look into automating, you need to look into delegating what you can, and building these processes and these procedures to make that happen. It's not happening overnight, but being consistent with that, it's really going to be a big game changer in your business.
I love it, man. Like there's so much information just right there. I just want to be like, whoa, man, like what's up? What's happening? No, I love it. And I want to go back just about 5 minutes ago when you were talking about sitting down and looking at the bigger picture, right? You were talking about, looking at 2, 5, 10 years down the road and saying, hey, where do I want to be? And what does that look like? Because a lot of times we never really think about, the details. We know, hey, we want to be fit, or hey, we want to own a business that's making money, but what does that look like? Like, what's the structure? What's the systems look like? And and you said working backwards from there, dude. That is so true. And so, like, well, as you were going through and you were talking about the bigger picture and you were talking about a party and stuff, and I had this vision in my head, and so it was cool. And now I can go back and like rework that. But I just wanted to stress that and say thank you for saying that, because I feel like that's an important step that a lot of people overlook. And as far as it goes with the certain type of task, man, can that be found in your book?
Yeah, that's the reader's starting point. It's like, okay, well, look, first of all, do an assessment of what you're doing, but second, classify your task within these 4 types of tasks, because these are the 4 types of tasks you're going to have in a business. Every single business has these 4 types of tasks. It's
Right.
just, you're going to find that a lot of them are into probably the reactive spot, a lot of them in the responsive as well, especially if you have an online business, and also the routine types of tasks. And you're going to realize that the routine types of tasks are all effed up, like, because they become reactive. And you realize that you're not spending a whole lot of time working on innovation, working on projects that move your business forward. And that's why we lose freedom, because we're always reacting, we're always putting out fires, because most of our tasks are within, the drifters. And we don't have freedom of freedom of creation, because obviously we don't create anymore. We just react. We do, but we don't create. And the longer you do that, the more you're going to realize that I'm not making more money. I'm just stabilized. While everybody, like other people, seem to actually have more financial freedom, and I'm just staying the same. Well, guess what? You're doing the same thing, expecting better results. Just not going to happen.
Caleb, that podcast right there, that was actually so good for me. Actually, I recorded that. You'll probably see in the video. I was in a truck, but that was like the most profound, statements were quoted right there while I was in that truck listening to that. And I loved it so much, because he talked about how a lot of times in our leadership journey we can get to a point where we get burned out.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves just kind of, like we talk about every week, right? We find ourselves going, grinding, and eventually we're not happy anymore.
Mhm.
And I really liked how he talked about breaking down an inventory of everything you're doing and splitting up your task, right? Figuring out, hey, what tasks are the right tasks? And actually, a quote you liked, I think was really cool. Tell them the quote that was your favorite was.
Yeah. So he talks about that, basically, that people confuse activity with productivity. So we think just because we're busy, just because we've got a lot going on and we feel like there's 1,000 things happening and we're all over the place and we're busy, but we're not being productive. And so he basically goes through and just talks about how just because you're doing a lot doesn't necessarily mean you're doing what's best. You're being most productive with your time. And it really was just a great talk.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, I encourage all you guys to do what he's talking about. Sit at home right now, or right after you listen to this talk. The sooner the better, because you're going to go off and life's going to happen. You're going to forget about this probably later on down the road. But as soon as you're done listening to this, create an inventory list of everything you do in a day, and let's sort those out. What are things that maybe you can delegate off to somebody else? What's going to be productive for you and your organization, or you and your business? Because once you can do that, that's going to help eliminate a lot of stress. It's going to let you get clarity about, what you actually need to be doing. Because what you said and what he said about people confusing activity with productivity is so true, right? A lot of people think, hey, in my organization, doing this is going to help me get to my end goal, when in reality, couldn't be farther from the truth, right? What most people spend, what do you think? Probably like 2 or 3 hours a day on Facebook doing business, right?
Oh
When
yeah.
in reality, they could probably take 10, 15 minutes a day, respond to all the notifications, all the messages, and spend most of the time doing other things that are efficient for their business and more productive. So I don't know. That was my favorite part. I really
I liked it.
enjoyed what you
Yeah.
said as well. Guys, let us know. Like every week we say this. Let us know what your thoughts are. Right? Just leave us a comment below or leave us a review and just let us know what you stuck out in this podcast in particular. And maybe you want to dive deeper with us. Listen,
Yep.
become a Leader Club member and you can actually get the show notes for this. You can actually get a summarized version of exactly what was talked about today. And you can hop in our private community and talk about this with other Leader Club members. I mean, how powerful is that when you can sit down and talk about these shows with people that are watching them with you? I mean, isn't that pretty powerful?
Yeah, the value that you're going to get from being a member is definitely going to outweigh the cost. I mean, it is very minimal what we're charging in comparison to everything you get, all the previous talks, all the upcoming episodes. You get to be a part of the amazing community and family that we have within our Leader Club, private groups that are just filled with amazing people that you can also be a part of for encouragement. You can bounce ideas off of their thoughts throughout your organization or whatever else is going on. So it's truly just a great place to be.
Yeah, great resource. So, guys, you can actually get signed up if you would like online at leaderclubonline.com. So that's www.leaderclubonline.com. Super easy to go in there. It literally probably takes a minute to get signed up. Then you get access to all the past and future leader talks we have and the private community. So we hope to see you in there, guys. Until next week, we'll see you guys very soon.
See you.